it seems like you and I might have different takes on the Emily Armstrong, Linkin Park, Scientology, Danny Masterson scandal that is rocking the music industry right now. And I'm not quite sure what our different takes are. I know what my take is, but what's your take? Let's start out with yours.
Yeah, because I've had some interesting feedback and comments like, "Oh, it's interesting that you and Aaron don't see eye to eye on this." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" And I think it's because of this. I have voiced on my live stream when I've talked about Emily Armstrong and this whole Lincoln Park thing that I have a hard time, like, I don't hate on her, that I want her to have success because I see this cadet who was neglected and victimized in Scientology. Even though she grew up, she's still responsible for the actions she took in terms of, harassment at the Masterson trial and supporting him for that moment in time. It doesn't take away from that, but my approach has kind of been I've had a hard time hating on her for it because I understand how strong the mind control is. That's kind of like been my take on it is she needs to take responsibility and take a stand. I would love her to denounce or disavow Scientology. Or fine, if you're going to be a Scientologist and stay there, then say, you know what, this is my religion. I'm a Scientologist, and this is what I support and believe in.
I also feel like I don't hate on Emily. I do want her to succeed. I think it's incredible that someone who was a pack rancher is now the lead singer for Linkin Park.
Yes.
Um, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And I also would like to see her use that platform in a way that does not allow young people, young women, young gay women to go, if Emily Armstrong is a Scientologist, then it must not be that bad. I might even be a little interested in it. I do see Emily more as a cadet, a pack rancher who was neglected, which is abuse, neglected and abused as a child, just like that is how I see her, which is why I think it is disgusting to see her also stand by and let me try to be as accurate with my words as possible. Well, because I don't know that I want to use the word complicit,
Yeah.
but the thing is, she's not being honest with the audience. She's not being honest with the fans.
Let me ask you a follow-up question to that. When you say she's not being honest, so do you think that by not saying that she's a Scientologist who doesn't support mental health, or she's just trying to maintain not losing her family, so she's not gonna say anything, but she's not an active Scientologist, like, do you think not it's the not saying is lying because you're not saying? And it's this whole thing of how do you sing songs written by, Chester and dealing with those issues when you don't actually believe in it, or does she believe in it and she just can't say? Is like, which
Right.
part do you think is the lie?
It's interesting because we don't actually know exactly where she stands, and depending on where she stands, would determine which is the lie exactly.
Yeah.
So, is it that she's a true believing Scientologist and she doesn't believe in depression and she doesn't believe in mental health and she doesn't believe in therapy or counseling, and she's lying by not saying that? It would be a lie of omission because she knows she knows that would be important information for the fans. She knows it would harm her reputation, her standing in the Linkin Park community. She knows that. So it's a lie of omission, and it would be relevant. Like, it's not like she's lying about something that should be private. That's relevant information.
Yeah,
Okay, in my opinion at least.
I agree.
Or is it that she actually is three-fourths out of Scientology, doesn't give a damn about it, would never get any more auditing, would never take any more courses, would never show up to a CCHR event, would never let herself be put on the celebrity mag, would like to apologize to Danny Masterson's victims, but is afraid to, if that's really where she stands, but she can't even bring herself to say that, is it fair to call that a lie? I think if that's where she actually stands, it's not the fans she's lying to, but it does allow Scientology to continue to use her as a propaganda tool. And
Mhm.
I guess perhaps the longer I'm out of Scientology, the more perhaps I'm a little desensitized to the concerns that I myself had when I was under the radar. And there were certain people, for example, Tony Ortega, who were trying to force me out from under the radar before I was ready. And I remember how that felt. And perhaps I've become a little bit desensitized to that as time has gone on. But I guess when we're in a community of people who've already sacrificed everything and lost everything, it is a little hard um, to continue to have sympathy for people, especially people who are in positions of power. I don't see Emily Armstrong as, oh, I couldn't possibly actually publicly apologize to Danny Masterson's victims because I would not be able to speak to my mom again. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of people out here who can never speak to their mom again as well. You're a rich, famous rock star. Are we really going to make all the exceptions in the world for you so that you can once every other week speak to your mom who works directly for David Miscavige? I'll be honest, that seems ridiculous to me, but I'm not her. But that's why I only speak for me. I don't claim to speak for her. I guess the stakes are higher. I mean, it's the same reason without making a direct equivalency here. It's the same reason I think it's perfectly okay to criticize Tom Cruise every day of the year. Like the stakes are higher. Tom Cruise is someone that Scientology even claims has introduced 1 billion plus people to Scientology. So the ship has long since sailed to feel sorry for Tom Cruise or see him as a victim, even though we certainly could if we wanted to. Um, Everyone's going to have a different opinion on when that ship sails, and it's not that there's only one answer. There's
Yeah.
there's not just one answer. There's not just one right opinion.
Yeah.
The fact that the stakes have just gotten so much higher and that Emily Armstrong is now the lead singer for one of the most famous bands in the world, and she is 100% being used by Scientology as a propaganda tool, as a recruitment tool. It's perfectly fair to hold her feet to the fire. I just think it's fair, but I don't hate her at all. I mean, I
Mhm.
couldn't even say that I dislike her. I don't know her at all. I've um I've never heard anything negative thing. I've never heard any negative things about her.
Yeah, I feel with Tom Cruise that it's different. It's a different situation because he has outright spoken, "I'm a Scientologist." Because of Scientology, if you get into an accident, only a Scientologist can help you. He has been very active in promoting that, in having volunteer ministers tents on his movie sites and things like that, in saying the crap he did about Brooke Shields and women with postpartum. Like Tom Cruise has pretty much created a situation where it's very obvious what he believes and where he stands and his arrogance about it. With Emily, she's not said that I'm aware of anything along those lines. And I agree with you. It's a kind of a sticky situation. And I think that as ex Scientologists and as for former Sea Org members, we have a different point of view about it because to your point, when you were kind of being forced to come out for being under the radar and what that felt like, that mental struggle of, okay, if I do this, this is a situation of what I could lose. When I decided to leave Scientology, it took me 2 years. I couldn't speak my truth. I couldn't talk about it because I needed to make sure I got my daughter out and then I got my mom out. But I think the sticking point with Emily Armstrong is kind of what you were saying, that by not saying anything, you allow Scientology to use you as an example. I mean, Tom Cruise went on a date with Shakira and Scientology tried to hold her up as, oh, she doing Dianetics now. But remember that was when the Hollywood Testing Center, when Scientology Audit Streets LA started showing up and the other live streamers, and people would go in, they were told that, oh, yeah, I mean, Shakira uses this celebrity uses this. And I think that that is what they're going to be doing because the everyday Scientologist and staff member believes Emily Armstrong is a Scientologist in good standing because she is, but that she's not in disagreement with Scientology. And so they're going to use that to recruit, which I think from our point of view is more of the sticking point. Whereas if you look at it from the viewpoint of being a fan of Linkin Park, it's about, hey, your values don't align with this music.
Exactly. Another thought that I had on this is that this is a very small community of, well, Scientologists and former Scientologists.
Mhm.
And, when Leah Remini, before she officially left Scientology, when she actually started to have serious concerns and wanted to start getting to the truth of some matters, she was in touch with big bad former Scientologist SPs. Before she was officially and publicly out of Scientology, she was very much privately in touch with people trying to find out what the hell's going on. Same thing for Lisa Marie Presley.
Mhm.
And the fact that, just for example, like Emily Armstrong's mother was one of the executives locked up in a prison at the International Management Base.
Mhm.
It's very possible that Emily never knew about that.
Oh, no way does she know.
But now that it's out there, though,
Mhm.
does she not care whether the organization and the group that she's a part of is the type of organization that's run by a guy that would lock her mother up in a prison at the International Management Base? And if she doesn't care about that, doesn't have the intellectual curiosity to go, the truth of this matter would be important to me, then I just go, it's just, she's a public figure. She's going to be used as a propaganda tool. Totally fair, in my opinion, to go, this is what you're supporting. Ignorance of it is an excuse up until the point when you could easily find out the truth of these things. And if you're not finding out the truth of these things, then how am I supposed to continue to make excuses for you? Emily Armstrong knows how homophobic Scientology is.
Yes.
I cannot, it's hard for me to put myself in the shoes of someone who's living as an openly gay person and connected to and supportive of a homophobic organization like Scientology. Add on top of that the child abuse that she's aware of. Add on that the fact that her mom was locked up by David Miscavige. I don't know what's better. If she's still in and a true believer and is covering it all up, or if she actually is out, uh, but completely afraid to ever admit it. And I mean, I guess it's better if she's actually out. But either way, it's like, hey, look, it's easier than ever to speak out publicly today.
Yeah.
She's in the driver's seat. Leah
Mhm.
Remini was able to get her entire family out of Scientology because Leah was in the driver's seat. If Emily Armstrong wanted to, on her own terms and at her own speed, organize things to officially and properly leave Scientology, one thing that she might do is contact her mom or the Office of Special Affairs or RTC and say, you get my mom out of INT and in my house by the living with me by the end of next week, or I'm speaking publicly to the press about Scientology. Like, Emily is in the driver's seat. And so I mean, I don't know. I could easily make arguments for both sides, and in fact, in my videos, I sort of have tried to make arguments for both sides on what would be preventing her from speaking out, but then what she could also do anyway. I'll just give you an example. the The easiest thing she could do is just do what Beck did and pretend that she's never been a Scientologist. Yeah, it was my. It, did Beck that get declared? No. Did David Campbell and his stepmom have to disconnect from him? No. Did his sister disconnect from him? No. Is he declared? No.
Mhm.
He's like, a Scientology was kind of my parents' thing. It was never really my thing, and I'm not associated with the organization. Emily could easily say that
Yeah.
because, to be honest, from most of the people that I hear from, it doesn't really sound like Emily was, after she managed to escape joining the Sea Organization. Um, it doesn't ever sound like she was one of these people who was on course and a lot and getting a lot of auditing. But the entire membership of the band Dead Sarah are Scientologists. I mean, I don't know. When do we stop making excuses?
Yeah, and that I think is the question and the thing, and where I end up where I pretty much land on it is when I think about that struggle, that internal struggle of I wanna leave, this doesn't really align with who I am, but I will lose, like, if I don't know what her relationship with her mom is like, it sounds like they have a close relationship. I have moments where I feel as an ex-Scientologist, as an ex-Sea Org member who went through a ton of crap to leave and then be harassed beyond that and work through those things that I can it's kinda like, well, what makes your neck not so precious? But then on the flip side of that, and this is kind of where I end up landing, is it's so personal. And I think it's only something that either somebody else who's been in a similar situation in terms of family in Scientology or the Sea Org and what that means to lose that. Because there's her sister too, right? The sister is a
That's right.
full-blown doing those videos.
It is so personal, but she's also now one of the most high profile public figures in the music industry.
Yeah.
And since when does anyone get a pass on people diving into your personal lives? Like, we're attacked for our personal lives, and we're not even in the closet supporters of Scientology. It is personal, but she's also so public. And that's why the stakes for Scientology and about Scientology are so much higher. One other thing I wanted to say about that is I do primarily see Emily as a former cadet, But the other people that I see as former cadets are the ones that Scientology sat down and recorded interviews with, calling Miriam Francis and Sina Kamula liars
Mm.
for being victims of child SA. When at least one of those former cadets who did that video was herself a victim of child SA, and she's doing videos calling Miriam and Sina liars. I guess what I'm really saying there is I don't think being a former cadet gives you a pass,
Mhm.
especially when the stakes are this high. But I don't hate Emily. I don't want her to be canceled. I don't want her to be fired. I
Mhm.
almost want her to be forced to at least say what Beck did, just to calm the noise down. Just say, "Oh, I'm not associated with Scientology anymore. That was my parents' thing." Okay, that's a start. For anyone not yet familiar, you can find Natalie's channel at Scientology Life After a Cult, where she does daily recaps of everything in the SPTV universe and beyond.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, oh, dancing on our love, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.